me record on this computer. Share. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, it should be. Okay. Cool. Yeah, let's just keep going. As we're kind of cognizant about time.
Sure.
I think there's like a 30-second snack break that just happened.
Okay.
We need to wait. We should probably. Yeah. Just give us. Yeah. But if you wait, more people will go.
Yeah.
Everyone who's here has to stay here.
Here, you can open these. And split up the juice.
Yeah, just speed up. Make it louder.
Okay. Do you guys all have pens?
No.
I have my
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, thank you. Can you pass it out?
And I can get you more pens.
Okay, I have pens.
I brought some extras. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 to check.
Okay.
So we just
And then
take all of them.
you could give it.
So we just take them. Maybe yeah, just take one pass along. I would do the same thing with these yes.
I can't.
Take one half of these. Take one skinny back.
Yes. Who's this the Nissan Pathfinder?
Nissan Pathfinder.
Yeah, that's fine. Some 60 wide, something like these.
Okay, that's mine.
Take one of these. Let's redirect the 2 parts.
I
Just
just
go
need to
straight
make it
to the
smaller.
corners.
We don't need to have.
You can just
You said to have a small.
You
You
want
can
to
just
split
you just keep it to half.
yeah, you just
No,
take
you just need to split me.
Cypria, do I need to move you over here?
Do you guys need separate?
Oh yeah, I have some more. Too. Oh, thank you. Hey guys, Cypria, take one pass it around.
Sorry guys, we're gonna start it up again.
Okay, we'll take one.
Just take a whole stack. Take a whole stack.
You're gonna take like this many.
I'm gonna say this.
Fine.
Silence on your stack.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm supposed to give it off the
Are
cuff.
you not able to use that as a second display?
No, but I'm recording a screen share.
Do you need another or like another?
That's fine. That's fine.
Or you can load the presentation notes to yourself.
No, I don't need to.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Let's go.
Okay, can we come back?
All right, guys, let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back. Okay.
Alright guys.
Anybody else need more?
Okay.
Did I get a pen, please? There's like a whole.
If you don't have a pen and a sticky notepad, please grab one.
I just want my pen in here.
Who doesn't have one?
Thank you.
Oh, there's a couple of extra pens.
Anybody else? It's like, I need a pen. Open how many? I don't
All the way
know.
sticky.
Oh, really?
Is there like fully sticky? No, like on the oh, the full back is. Oh, that's weird.
This is a new one I wanted.
No, those
Okay,
are
here.
sticky.
Here are better ones. Here are better ones.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Can I pull your attention back? Okay. So we'll jump in like to the quick background of Vipassana. Maybe do you want to put it up higher?
I think it's okay.
Can you guys all see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So it was rediscovered by the Buddha 2,500 years ago. Look at that beautiful butterfly. He or she is also an attendee of this. Goenka is the current teacher of this practice. He actually died in 2013, but he's like pre-recorded a lot of the talks. People from, I think what was so interesting is that people from all backgrounds and all ethnicities come. So I was kind of taken aback, like to see like so many new kinds of people at like the first day I was there. There's a 3 to 4 month waiting list for the retreat. So if you're interested, sign up and like commit to a date. and so Goenka kind of says this on and on. He's like, it's not a religion, not a group, not like a sect or anything. It's just a meditation practice that it teaches you. And so, and another cool thing is that it's free. So I like that a lot. And but then afterwards, I volunteered a little bit and helped out in a sense. So I have this one activity for everybody, and so everybody can as with your post-it notes, which I encourage you to just jot down ideas that you think are really cool that you vibe with, and just one or two words. And I started doing this at UIAF, and since then I've continued to do it. So it's been really helpful, just connecting lots of different thoughts from different parts of my life. So these are post-it notes, and then we can sit by the person sitting next to you. You can discuss.
So you want to sit on partners?
Yeah, just by the
What should the people on the phone?
They can. Don't worry. So we can
Okay. So one piece of paper per person or per partner? Per partner group.
No, per person. There should be enough.
Do we have enough?
And then based on what you see, jot down one or two ideas. Based on what you see, and then you can share it with your partner. And then for you guys, I will just message you.
Okay. So there are topics coming around. Does anyone else need a notepad or a pen?
Yeah, there's a ton of extra. Anyone else?
Does everyone have a partner?
Oh, wow.
All right.
You can do that.
All right.
You want to write down something first?
So the prompt is, what's the first thing that comes to mind, right? Second.
So everyone, it's the first thing that comes to mind when you see your prompt. You want to jot it down.
The prompts are coming around.
Yeah. That's prime real estate.
You're right next to it. Use it.
Yeah. Actually, if anyone wants to go see it,
Over you and sit.
Really like prime real estate.
Did you grab
I'm sorry, so we're in pairs. We're going to read our blue note.
Yep.
And then we're going to write down two words.
Write
anything that comes to your mind. Is that what you said?
Yeah, write a few things that come to your mind, and then share it with your partner.
How many is 2 or 4? 5?
anything?
Whatever comes to your mind.
And, he was asking the number of people.
Oh, two.
Could we just have
I guess I have to.
But Jimla doesn't have a partner.
Oh,
yeah. All right, you sure?
So mine was habit pattern of mind. So I was listening to this talk earlier today. He was talking about how the mind is the third kosha, Maya, where I am the mind. You think who's thinking, who's speaking right now? Oh, the mind is speaking.
So you said, yeah.
So I thought that.
Oh.
So I thought that. The mind is
So you said, how did the mind?
Yeah, the 5 koshas, the bunch of koshas.
So I had observation of breath, and so I wrote down calm, focus, steadiness, relaxation, centered. First thing I think of is just a sense of ease. And kind of be
I'll leave one. Let's do it.
Okay, Josh, thank you for that.
All right, guys.
Hey, sorry, I stole your secret.
No, that's okay. I'll do it. Do not. Sure. Oh, I'm sure.
Gotham can weaken that with our
That's fine.
So yeah, we're talking about
First time read the quote.
So here, you come from it's nice to you're supposed to read the words right now.
Just read it.
We'll just add it. They can see.
You guys, now everyone, now group up with 2 other people and like share your thoughts with like another group of 2. Group up with another group and like share your thoughts.
Okay, so we can go.
Source, but not force. Okay, so in the 30 seconds I have, people store in persuasion. Okay, so people sourcing but not forcing. Okay, what are you trying to take out of the because any action is right? So we're trying to source something, we're not trying to force it on something. Store, okay. Always something that you're trying to get from. Alright, sourcing, I feel like so that's the first thing you want. So I'm trying to take that. And then persuasion is about forcing. That's all I'm doing. What do you guys want?
So I can use words that kind of exemplify that for me, like calm, focus, steadiness, relaxation. The mind, like patterns of mind. And so I thought what came up to me was like Untitled Chapter. And I was listening to Papa, we were talking about that. How like each culture, each chief thinks of itself as the body. So the body might say, "Oh, I am the body. I'm the life force. I'm the mind." But they're not really any of those things. So the mind is like how does the mind
Yes. Okay. Everyone, we're bringing it back. We're bringing it back. Bringing it back. Yeah. Now you guys can now. What do you think of the activity? Was it good? Yeah. What were some of maybe we can go like round robin or just you just like say some of the cool things you shared, you learned based on the words, real quick.
I think the words really got me like thinking about like other aspects of life. Because we like all share, you know, like so many different things. For example, I got like rising and passing away, and I was like, oh, we all have to go and
Sure.
that. And Sonia here got like getting used to a habit. It's habit pattern of mind. Yeah, and she was talking about how our brains just get used to a habit so much that once we like have to change that habit, it's just like we have to make a conscious effort.
Cool. Anyone else want to? We can take a few more.
Sure. My 2 words were craving and aversion. And it's funny because we just did the activity that was like seemingly different or contrasting words, and I thought that the words that I got were interesting. I think for me, the biggest thing is food. Like there are days that I don't necessarily want to eat anything, and then there are days where I'm craving like something. And so I think it's interesting because I think we all find ourselves on different sides of that spectrum. And so it just made me think about why it's so drastic. And so I think for me that was.
Okay, we can continue. Okay, so one thing that was really cool, I found this in like early March or so. This was part of a longer thread that I saw later. So Vipassana, this is from Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter and Square. Vipassana's singular objective is to hack the deepest layer of the mind, reprogram it instead of unconsciously reacting to feelings of pain and pleasure, consciously observe that all pain and pleasure aren't permanent and will ultimately pass and dissolve away. So very similar to kind of what you guys all discuss, talk about. I like truly feel this. I think you're really, in a sense, hacking the deepest layer of the mind. So a day in Vipassana, so essentially you get up at 4 a.m. And there's a morning bell, and then by 4:30 there is the first group sitting. So from 4:30 to 6, that's like optional. So there's during the day there are 3 optional sittings, and then there's 3 like group sittings. And so the optional sittings you can kind of go and attend, which you like, should. So for me it was really interesting. I got like during like the middle days, I was only sitting like an hour or 2 hours. So I would like just like sometimes miss it in the morning. They were just feeling super tired. Like the second or third day, the assistant manager had to come like knock my door and like, wake me up. So like I was like late to my morning meditations, but like throughout the week it definitely got better. And then so one thing they do is you have morning breakfast, and then you have a good lunch, and then there's some for dinner. There's like fruits and tea. And if you're a vegetarian, like the food is amazing. That's my like opinion. But it's just like it's like so good. And so there's also a 1 hour long discourse each night. And this is given by Goenka. It's recorded. So one thing that was really cool is these talks were recorded in 1991, and they were so relevant to like my life in like 2019. And it was just like so cool to see that. And then at the end of the day, students can ask a few questions, and like for a few minutes, or you can schedule an interview. I think the one thing to highlight here is noble silence. So there's no phones, no communicating, no writing, reading, or talking to other people. So it's like you will like look at someone, but they actually won't like return any communication back. So that's like really calming and can really give yourself a chance to look inside.
You can't read the teacher.
No. So
It's only reflection.
Yeah, only reflection. So one thing also is like you're also in the room with, you're also doing on the retreat with 140 people, 70 men and women. So it is empowering in that sense because like people are getting through it.
So where is this held? Sorry.
So I did it in Shelburne Falls,
okay.
In Western Mass, but there are 200 centers around the world.
Wow.
So yeah. All right, so let's dive in. So here's my experience. So day 1, a lot of happy thoughts, really happy thoughts. You go back to all your experiences and your memories. Definitely satsang was a lot of those happy thoughts. And then day 2 was like too many thoughts because you're reflecting on day 1's thoughts, and then you have all these thoughts, right? And then day 3 felt like I was like at the bottom of the mountain, like because I've done like the 2-3 days of silence before, but then so I was like going in, I was like pretty excited. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And then day 3 hits, and I'm like, okay, there's like 7 more days of this thing left, right? So like I was like a little like okay, a lot to climb. And then day 4, you've kind of thought. Well, for me, I kind of thought through all the good memories and the good thoughts. And so now the bad memories come up. And so this is where you're kind of being a little challenged and you're starting to learn a little bit more about yourself. And then day 5, the talks are also kind of given in such a way where it makes you think about certain things. So day 5 was like really hard, like deep stuff, and then it just goes like downhill. Like day 6 is even deeper stuff. I like remembered things from like when I was like 6 years old, experiences when I was like 8, 9 that I like completely forgot and like pushed away. Maybe I hadn't dealt with it when I was like 6 or 8, but like that stuff came up too. And then like day 6, like insane. Like I was just like, I went insane. Broke down, crying, like why am I here? Why am I living? Yeah, now that I'm like happy is like, that was not the case day 6. And then like also couldn't sleep, was feeling a lot of pain. So it was like actually, yeah, really hard. And then the next 3 days, you're like mentally like coming back to sanity, right? You're like, for me, I was like, here are my problems, here are my fears. What am I gonna do with this? So I'm like self-organizing in my head, right? This is what I'm gonna do with this thing, and this is what I'm gonna do with this thing, and this is what I'm gonna do with this thing. And then, I started like hatching out a plan, kind of observing my insanity, like kind of detaching my like insanity, like this thing. And then day 9, like kind of accepting, okay, like failures and things I had not completed. And then day 10, you're like, all right, here's what I need to do, and I've got a plan, and this I'm gonna like get it done. So it was like, because it was like a journey through your own mind.
Do the talks have a structure to them, and are they, or should we not be talking about the talk structure? Is it somewhat aligned to these experiences?
Kind of. It as you go deeper and deeper, it kind of nudges you in certain ways.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this later on, but like, can you be like an example of a topic of a talk?
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely talk about that. One thing is like at some point there is like silence, like day 7. Like you just thought about so many things that my mind just like came to a stop. Like there was like nothing to think about because I just thought for like 6 or 7 days. And for me in the nighttime, like my mind would just go and go like a rocket, right? It just keeps on going. And so I just like hiding in my bed. And I did it with 3, so it was like 3 people in a room. It was also really interesting. There was a bunch of people in their 20s there. So they put them all together and said, figure it out, guys. All the old people were all like in like singles. But like all the people in their 20s were like all together. And like my neighbor was like tossing and turning. I was like, and they were like talking in his sleep. And I was like, hey man, are you okay? In my sleep. Yeah, it was unreal.
So quick question. At some point, did anyone just be like, okay, I can't handle this and just walk out?
Yeah. So 4 people left.
Mm-hmm. And when did they leave?
4 out of 140.
So, wow.
Yeah, so we'll get through it, right? People left on like any day, like day 6, day 7, day 8.
So is this like a campsite or something, or?
Yeah. So it's like in the forest place. It's like away from civilization.
So is it like mostly old people, or just, you said there's a few young people, but like, are it like middle-aged? I'm just curious.
So it varies.
Wow.
There could be like people, and I was talking to somebody. It was really cool. Like, and they're people from all different kinds of backgrounds. There was like a priest there from like the church.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there was like
so it wasn't like a lot of Indian people. It's like
no. There was to put it in context, there was like 3 Indian people. It was like me and 2 other older people. And it was like very, very different backgrounds.
So having it structured as like a 10-day retreat, do they expect that most people go through that same type of experience where it takes like a while for their minds to settle down and then come back, or is there like another reason for the 10 days?
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Like at some point, the mind kind of just like slows down a little bit because you've done a lot of thinking. For some people it doesn't happen, and for some people it happens really early. I guess that's kind of the structure. There is no less of a 10 day. It's only 10 days.
Did you connect with anyone that went to the retreat with you after the retreat?
Yeah, I did. One of my friends, now we're like good friends now, San, and so he's been going on for a while, like 4 or 5 retreats, and so people go back because it's, you learn a lot about yourself, right?
Right. Yeah. The question I had was, so your experience was you started with happy thoughts, and then that was your progression. Like in terms of like other people that you talk to who've been to the retreat, what has their experience been in terms of like is the progression the same for most people?
Yeah. So actually, before I went, I actually talked to a YA from San Francisco. I don't know if you know Ruchita. Yeah. So she gave me a lot of advice, and so that was like astronomical. Just like then, and that's why I'm like so indebted to the YA community, because she like told me everything I needed to know before going into it. She's like, just sit through the whole thing. You're gonna want to quit at some point, but just like sit through it. And that I think was super powerful. She did say like at some point she felt some pain and some bad memories come up. So I think at some level people feel very somewhat the same.
Okay. No, my thought was if one day when you have really sad memories, then how do you like go from like you had a good progression, you had like happy thoughts, you had a good progression. Like what if for people, because everyone has different things.
Yeah.
But if for people there's a lot of that angst and a lot of that pain, like do they help? Like is there some sort of a coping thing around, or is it just self-reflection?
Yeah, you can talk to the teacher.
You can talk to
you can talk to the teacher if you're having pain, and he like answers a lot of your questions. But I think the main thing is what we kind of talked about, like it kind of drills into your mind that everything is coming and going, everything is arising and passing away. So at some point you'll just like structure in your head how to like figure how to deal with this situation.
So you said that after 7 days, like you just like thought of everything that could be thought of. Did your dreams also reflect that?
Oh yeah. It was really good actually. So one dream I was like in Inception, where it was cool. Like I was in the. So I think one thing that the YA from San Francisco really drilled into my head was like at 4 a.m. when that bell rings, get up and take a shower and go. Just like go and sit in the hall. And so what I would do is just go sit in the hall and then sit there for 30 minutes and go back to sleep. Just like I'd actually go sit there. And one day like I just like slept in the hall because I just like drown out, right? And also like my cushion was like a throne because like they give you like all these cushions. So like I added like one cushion here, another cushion here, another cushion here. And my neighbor like, well, what are you doing? I'm comfortable. Yeah, it was like, and so you just like lay back and you sleep, right? And so I'm dreaming, and I was in this like purple computer room, and then I like went into another dream, and I was like on like a beach thing, and I woke up from that dream, and I was back into the purple computer room, and I was like, oh no, what do I do? And then I got back here to reality, so that was really cool. Yeah. Any more questions?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I guess the thing I was thinking of was you were saying about 7, 8, 9 days you were in that silence mode truly, like you thought all the thoughts you need to think, they're all done. I was wondering, in that state, did you really want to think? Was there any feeling like compulsion to? Because most of the time we're doing it voluntarily. Many times we are doing it voluntarily, like making fun of all of that. I was just curious, like at that point, did you feel like what's the point of it all? Like having those like.
Yeah. At some point, I was like, it's just easier to be a little silent, right? The thoughts just stopped coming, and I was like, okay, this is a good place to be in, but like there is no attachment made to that stillness, right?
Very cool.
Yeah. So did anyone? So you mentioned that 4 people left, but did anyone like break the rules a little bit here and there, at all that you noticed?
To my knowledge, I don't think people did.
It's a self-selecting group. I mean, you're not gonna just.
Yeah.
No, true, but like I mean, just like on the side, like took something to like make sure that they could survive through this or anything.
I
You
mean,
see
I don't
anything?
know. Like I was kind of really focused on like finishing and like myself, right? So I wasn't
No, but actually, just building on that, if you can't talk and you can't do anything, did you become like hyper observant of like everything around you? Or
I was just like maybe like neat, like was hyper observant of nature, but not really. I didn't really care about what other people's experiences.
Not even for like a moment.
Alright, Gautam, we can ship you off there.
Okay. No, I have to say that's impressive on your part. I could never do this.
You can.
No, after like the second day, I'd be like, I can't do this.
We'll send you there.
And let's continue. Okay, so yeah, so tuning in with nature was like something that's super, super powerful. Like I think 3 big experiences that I had, like you spend a lot of time in nature, so there's like about a half-a-mile hike that you can do. So during the optional meditations, you can sit in the hall, or you can walk around in nature. So one experience is I carried like a ladybug from like one area to another area on a stick. I guided a ant into an ant hole. I observed bees pollinating a purple tree. I saw a lot of butterflies. I saw a little bug here. So it was just like, it was amazing. And now like, if we can like derive happiness from just our surroundings, then think like, going to work, going to school, right? We can just like continually derive happiness from our surroundings. Then we don't need to derive happiness from anything else. So tuning in with nature was like super powerful. I'm still trying to practice that.
Did you feel after this experience that you are more quieter in your mind? Like, is your mind a lot more silent in general? Like, are your thoughts more in control?
Yeah, I would say so. You can definitely like detach, like separate what the mind is, because the mind will just like keep going, right? So you just like shut it up, then you can just like do what you're doing, right? So I came back, and like I said in the text, I worked for 6 hours. And so as I was writing and like talking to my dad, this is one thing that came out, and I think this is super powerful, especially for everybody here. I started like doing this in like my daily to-dos and tasks and projects. So it's like this idea of like a process to get things done. And so there was like a step structure. And so my kind of the end of the task was 10 days. And so I broke it down into a fourth, a third, a half, 2/3, 3/4, and 1, and then plus 1, and then 1 plus. And each of those parts, I kind of felt something. So for me, is like at 1/4, I was counting in my head. It's like 2.5 days. Like, am I committed to this thing? Am I not committed? Then let me just focus on like the next step. And so the next step is where I like learned a little bit more about myself. So 3.333 days. I was like learning a little bit more about myself, and it was started to get more interesting. And then from 1/3 to 1/2, that's where it started to get a little challenging. It was kind of difficult. It was kind of hard. And then 1/2 to 2/3, that was when it was like really hard. Like, let's quit. Let's stop. This sucks. And then like kind of similar at 2/3, that's when I went insane. Right? That was when it was like the hardest. And because like I just went, I'm like in the thick of it, I'm like learning a lot about myself. But I realized at that point, right, I had done 2 1/3. So if I were to go back, I would have to like do two of these things again, right? If I would start over, I would do 2 of these things. So let me just kind of push through the next, like to the next step into that, so the 3/4. And then 3/4, I was like, all right, I'm like pretty much done with this thing. Why do I need to stay here? I pretty much got what I need, right? And then I was like, why am I like, I can just leave now. But I was like, let me just push to the end. And so push to the end and then finish with the 10 days of silence. And now, great, this is awesome. I'm still kind of feeling like I'm in it. I'm still feeling really silent, as you guys saw. And then post the experience, I felt like, wow, I was in a rhythm. Like, it was awesome. Like, I want to go back in the future. And this kind of step structure, I've kind of applied to a lot of things in my life, right? And that could be within getting like a project done, or taking a class, or dividing it up into like 1/3, 1/2, and whatnot. And then there's also sometimes within these like steps, it's also kind of hard. Like, it's kind of hard to get from 1/2 to 2/3. So there's also a whole within a whole, right? You can divide it up you can segment it up and like try to get through that hump. Yeah.
So this process, during the 10 days, you had some activity or you had some tasks that you had to do, right? Did you find, at any point, the tasks itself, you got sick of them, you got agitated based on your own internal struggles? Did you ever find yourself taking it out on the task, or did you have to correct yourself as you were doing it? Kind of essentially, did your thoughts affect your actions?
No, we didn't really have to do many things. Just have to kind of show up for breakfast and lunch and go sit. So no, not really.
And do you think that the progression of emotions or motivation that you see in this like structure, like, have you noticed that in like other things that you do?
Yeah, everything.
So at some point, did you like I said, like 3 or 4 days in, did you try to avoid doing, like, let's say like, I don't know how the structure was for this, but let's say, so there was some kind of talk like every day or something like that, right? So at some point, did you try to avoid those thoughts that you were having, like day 5, day 6, by just completely, like, let's say you're just saying sign on for like an hour or something like that, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I am interesting motions in my head. Yeah. But they just never go away, right? They're your thoughts. And you're silent, and you can't do anything else. If you can't do homework or read or write or whatever, you gotta sit there and think.
So while we're figuring out the lighting, how did you deal with your own internal anxiety, if there was? Because I feel like certain individuals were predisposed to anxiety and things like that. I feel like this would just be a total breakdown.
Yeah. So you have to apply to get into Vipassana. Oh. And so there is like they kind of weed out the people who have those kind of things, and you sign like a disclaimer and stuff like that to make sure that the Vipassana is not liable.
Did you get panicked at times? Did you develop like a moment where you were really anxious and those feelings weren't there before? Like you've never experienced something?
Yeah, day 6. For me, it was day 6, where I just like completely broke down.
You were crying.
I was bawling.
How did you like break out of that cycle? Like day 10, you had a plan and you were focused. How did you kind of break out?
You just sit there with your thoughts, and so you got to figure it out. And so you're just like, all right. So at one point, you start to accept.
What is?
Yeah, accept what is it. Take life as it is. Whatever you've done it, just take it as it is.
So I guess I have a few questions, but my first one would be, did you meditate before going? Like, were you a meditator at all before you did Vipassana?
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk about that towards the end. But yeah, so that helped with it, is like building. It's very easy to like go into this, learn a lot about yourself, and then drop it. But I think there's a super powerful if you like keep practicing.
Well, I think my question is like, what is the difference between someone who's been meditating like for the past 2-3 years on a consistent basis versus the difference between going through a structured program like this or a structured? Like, did you feel that there was any difference, or why would you suggest doing the 10 days?
Just because it's just a consecutive silence, right? You're like 240 hours of like not really talking to people. So I think that's super powerful. Also, like a lot of people in the room had done some type of meditation.
I have a question. So, when you say that there's like a teacher that you can ask questions, is there just like one for all 140 people?
There's 2.
All right then, I guess it's fine.
I'm just like, they must be like full all day long.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Is that the only like moment that people are allowed to talk?
Yeah, so at the end, you can come and ask a few questions, and then during, you can schedule some time during lunch.
So, in daily life, we do a lot of things to distract ourselves, reading, watching movies, talking to people. But 10 days of silence, at any point, did you get sick of being in your own head? Just dealing with your own thoughts, the reality of your life?
Towards the end, towards the middle end, I'd say, right? Like, it's just really, really hard to deal with some things. Especially, like, the things you hadn't dealt with and you just kind of pushed away. Those things are really, really hard. Now we're going into some of them.
Do you have to be a meditator in order to apply for the?
No, you don't have to be in a meditation practice, but I strongly urge it because it helps a lot. Because you find that time during your day to like, do something like meditation.
I remember after talking to Satya when he came back, I was kind of researching the website to read about like what are the eligibility requirements or whatever, and some of the main points they make are that this is not a fad. This is not like I'm gonna restart my life like namaste type of thing. Like very very much a kind of deeper point of existence that you're trying to achieve. So that was telling.
I like this slide a lot. Forrest Gump, right?
Yep.
So really thinking about the Swami says is source but not force. And I'll kind of go into kind of the real experiences of the process slide. For those of you who run, like running up hills are really hard, right? And through that, so I like tested, so I've like run up some hills and I've like tested 2 different states of mind. Let me just force myself to go up that hill and like, let me observe my thoughts. And so I'll go up that hill and I will feel like I'm really tired and like I want to stop. But if I just focus on the breath, right, and just like observe my breath as I go up and like implement this like structure that I had, it just feels a lot easier. And then you just go up past the top of the hill and you keep going, like nothing happened. And I think that is super powerful. Like Forrest Gump just kept going all throughout America, right? And I talked to one kid who's also in his 20s, and he was a PhD in electrical engineering, and I was like, why do you do these? Like, what's important to you about Vipassana, right? And he told me, so he had put me in contact. This was his 5th retreat. And something he had told me is like, as I'm like studying for an exam, so for everybody who's in school, it's really, really powerful. I get so like result oriented and like focused on the grades, and that can add some kind of pressure and some kind of anxiety in my life. Whereas after doing these silence retreats, he said that I'm more focused on like the optimization, like that I study, each part of it, and then not really focused on the grade, but really focused on like, the process of getting that. And just like understanding that like whatever the grade comes, there's an acceptance, right? As there's an acceptance of your fears and your anxieties and the deepest things of your mind, there's an acceptance of this future grade that I'm gonna get. And then he said that as a freedom up and helped him make him work harder to get that, whatever that is, right? I think that is kind of the power, is like acceptance of the past, acceptance of the future, and acceptance of the present, so that you can really work hard and like take advantage of this specific moment, right? So that was really powerful. Okay, so there's a lot of you guys got the habit pattern of the mind, cravings, reactions, aversions, root cause, the chain of misery. So these are like the biggest kind of crux of Vipassana. This is what he, on all of his talks, he'll kind of reference these words and like almost drill these words into your mind. So the way that I kind of put it in a tree is we have it's very easy to kind of go after our cravings all the time, to live a very cravingful life. And then you keep reacting, right? And then you're just like creating this like chain of misery of just like reactions, cravings, reactions, cravings, reactions. And we don't even focus on what we avoid, right? So that's the aversion, that's the trunk of the tree. Like we like avoid ourself, or like the eternal I, but then we just like live this cravingful life. And so that is the root cause. That's what he says is the root cause for all of our misery, is like our cravings and reactions are like the branches and the leaves. But if we focus on like what we avoid, that's the root cause of all of our misery. Any questions there? It's probably pretty deep. So this is another really, really important thing that I kind of observed after going and coming back from Vipassana. There's a stimulus reaction. So think of like maybe like you eating, and like there's a bag of chips or Cheetos or whatever, and then you immediately eat that, right? And you unconsciously just keep eating that. And then maybe we come to like satsang a lot, and people say, respond to the stimulus, right? Respond. So then instead of like eating those chips, you may go eat like some carrots, right? But that sensation is still there, and it's still strong, right? So whenever the carrots aren't there, I'm probably gonna go back to the chips. And so one thing is it gives you that like pause. There's a stimulus, but then there's a pause. And that pause could be like a half a second, a second, and then you like observe that sensation, that part of the body, that synapse or whatever it is, and then you just like let it go. And to put this into perspective, I like really like I was like in this like state of mind. I was like, all right, I want to start saying Paramarpana before I eat food, right? But like that's too hard. I can't I can't even remember to do that ever. So let me like scale it down, and let me just acknowledge that I'm eating food before I eat food. And so like in work, like I spend, and my coworkers are always like questioning me, but like I cut fruits in the morning for like 20 minutes, and like I make a big bowl of like breakfast. And so with that, I'm like kind of just like a pear can be really good and really, really amazing, right? And so strawberries, peanut butter, right, can be really good. And that you can derive happiness from those simple things. But if you think about this, stimuluses and all the brands we see today, right? They're all just stimuluses. So definitely things to think about here. Okay, so going back into Tiger Woods, I played a lot of golf growing up. Like I played every day. Played a lot of tournaments, and I found this really cool video. So just kind of put it out there. Tiger Woods had like an online media fiasco and a personal fiasco, but there's a lot of good things we can take from what he did. So I'll kind of play this video. Oops. Oh, you can't hear it.
It's okay. Maybe you want to skip it.
Or you can unplug it and we can just listen.
It's only 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Like it's so entrenched on the moment skipped over. I don't know what the whole terminology is, but there are many putts, there are many shots that I don't remember hitting. And no, I remember seeing the ball fly. I remember preparing for the shot, pulling the club out of the bag. I'm tying the ball, I'm walking in the shot, I don't see the ball leave. It's a weird thing.
Listen to the key words. I think that's pretty important.
You're looking to get that focus and the process take place within a time frame. I call it the 40-second sanctuary of the pre-shot routine. The more intense the situation gets, the calmer I feel, more things slow down. It's just a weird sensation. It's hard to articulate on it. For some reason, the last few holes take forever, but they may be happening a lot faster for some reason, but they seem like they're taking longer. A lot of times I don't hear noise. I don't hear anything. It's just I've become so involved in that particular moment, being shot, performing a task, and being mentally prepared for that shot. And it's almost as if I get out of the way. Training. My father was in special forces. Their lifetime for it. He said the training was just over. And it was
so as you can kind of see that. So Tiger won the Masters this year after 11-year drought. I kind of really started studying Tiger Woods because I've followed him for so long. And as you can see, a lot of those things, right? I don't really hear the noise, don't really remember hitting the shot. It's like what I did before and what I did after. Sometimes when I'm about to, in the last few holes, I'm about to win, all these people are screaming Tiger Woods, but these are all just sensations that I'm observing. So I thought that was really powerful. And so he goes online. So in 2012, he kind of posted this, and I thought it was really powerful. It's like craving causes an unhappy and pointless search for security. Stop following every impulse, stripping away and all the rationalization and denial. When you face it and you start conquering it, you start living up to it. And so he's kind of talking about the fears here, right? So I think that's really, really interesting. And those two words, rationalization and denial, map to craving and aversion, right? They're just kind of very similar type of words. He's also said that he does practice Buddhist meditation, but if you look on any of his videos, he never talks about it. I think that's his secret. That's what he does super well.
So was this post his personal life crisis? Did he find Buddhism post that?
So his mom was a Buddhist, and so before, as growing up, he was very much into Buddhism, and then he kind of went away from it, and then back in 2012, I think he got back to it, and then he won. And so as a 43-year-old to win the Masters is almost unheard of. So I think there's a lot of positive things we can take from that. So this is something I got at ZYAF. It was a slide that he showed up, and I was like, yes. So Albert Einstein is the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So again, I think it's super powerful. I think this craving, aversion, rationalization and denial, intuitive mind and rational mind all map really well together. So this is something that Goenka talks about is the experiential wisdom. He calls it panya. And so his talks are in the language of Pali. which is very similar to Sanskrit. And so taking life as it is, doing without doing, action without action. If you looked into what, if you remember what Tiger said, right? It's like, I don't really remember hitting the ball. I don't really remember doing a lot of things. Just kind of let the, he ended with a quote, like, let the training take over, right? So let his practice take over when he's in this, like, very in situations that he could lose it or he could win it, let the training take over. This is another thing that Goenka talked about in, like, just a very quick segment of kind of the vicissitudes of life, and maybe you guys can relate to this. Life, in a sense, right, you kind of live it like a wave. There's the highs and the lows, and it could be trending up, could be trending down. But after going through this kind of meditation, kind of raise your awareness about yourself. And then you also, so then at one point, you feel a lot of, going back to what you said, how do you kind of handle all this pain? Your equanimity raises. And so this is like something that we've all grown up with, awareness and equanimity, since we were like young. And that's something I think, like, those YAs were like so gifted. Like, we come to YA satsang and people say this all the time. And there's just like another version of that, but over a 10-day period. So as kind of the awareness grows, yeah, there's highs and lows, but you know, they get smaller and smaller. And the highs, you're not getting carried away with the highs, and the downs are not getting carried away with the downs. You're not building attachment. You're not avoiding the downs. So for the math people out there, like, the amplitude decreases. So yeah, speeding time up. I think, like, people, especially at work, for me, just love to speed time up, right? Like, get this done, or like, what did you, like, how was your weekend? It was great. Or the weekend went by too fast, or the week went by too fast. No, the weekend was 2 days long, and the weekday was 5 days long. Like, it didn't go by any faster or any slower. And we're building this idea of, like, more. We're not enough. I think one quote at CYF was, someone said, just, we are enough. I'm happy that I'm enough. Slaves of the cravings and our senses. We've kind of talked a lot about this at satsangs. But with this idea of more, that's in, like, every domain, every part of our life, right? Let me get here faster. If I'm biking to work, let me bike faster. If I'm eating going to a really good restaurant, let me eat more because I'm probably never going to come here again. If I'm traveling, let me see more because I'm probably never going to come here again when I'm traveling. Mind just wants more. And our media and our senses and Amazon with, like, 48 hours, I can get it out my door with one click. I can just keep feeding my craving of more. Thus, I'm just building this craving of more in just different ways. So I think slowing time down is something that I, like, really conceptualized. So since I started work, I started keeping track of the days I started working at work, and so now it's 139. So that kind of helps me slow time down. Whenever I'm writing a gratitude journal, thanks for the great gratitude session. And when, like, if you can remember to the Tiger Woods videos, like, the last 2 holes, as everybody keeps screaming up and down, it starts to slow down. And so when my boss or when people at my work start to put deadlines and things on me, like, the wheels start to speed up. But then I just kind of just, like, thought about this. I was like, I'm just going to think of a backwards wheel. And so as they keep saying, just do things for the people in school, finals coming up, right? Let the backwards wheel go. And that's a visual that I'm having in my head. And so the faster somebody says things to get things done, the faster this wheel goes backwards and backwards and backwards. And then I'm able to really discern, like, this is what you actually want. And so I'm just going to do exactly what you want and then like move on. And so this idea of like, you know, the journey is the destination. Like, this is great that we're all here. We're all having satsang. We all come every month. There is no like next step. Well, what am I going to get to after this? Right? This is awesome. So I got a lot of experiences post retreat, but I think one, to keep it really short and fun, is so I thought about this idea of completing the incomplete, and I have a lot of incompletes. Some projects that I started in college, some projects that I started in high school, things I've done with people, and I just wanted to complete them after this retreat. So one experience was I was working. I don't know if you guys use Screen Time. People who use iPhone. So back in high school, I thought of Screen Time, and like I had a friend. I was like, "Can you make this like app for me? It's like limits the amount of time you be on certain apps." And I said, "Okay, I'll pay you like $500, and then it'll be good. I'll like market it and whatnot." And so he made the app for me, and then I never paid him. And I went to college, and I was like, "All right, I'm never gonna see this guy in my life again. Oh, I'm never gonna pay him." And I completely forgot about it. And then I went to, going through life, graduating, going to work. And then I had paid for, so somebody was flying, and I had paid for their flight, $250 because like, their credit card wasn't working, and he never paid me back. And so I was like texting him every few weeks or so. I was like, "Hey, can you pay me back? Can you pay me back?" And like he didn't really pay me back. And so I like during the silence retreat, I like realized I was like, how do I feel? Like, I felt kind of bad, like you didn't really pay me back. And I realized that that's how my friend felt, like back in high school. So in my head, I was like, all right, when I start after 3 months of work, I'll have made some money, and now I can like pay my friend back. And so 3 months went by, and I was talking to somebody, and I was like, wait, 3 months have went by, I should message him and pay him back. And so then I messaged him, I was like, hey, I went on this silence retreat. 10 days of silence, I learned a lot about myself. I thought a lot about a lot, and I realized I didn't pay you back. So if you just give me your Venmo, I can like Venmo you $500. And he then texted me. He was like a really long text. He's like, "This is awesome. Like, everyone has to face their fears at some point, and I'm happy that you're doing it. I would love you can just think about just pay me $250. Think about the other half as an investment in you. I know you're always like, working on cool things and ideas. You can always hit me up about them." And so then he gave me his Venmo, and then I Venmoed him the money. And then I realized after that, like the $250 that I paid him plus the $250 that I paid for the flight both added up to $500. And so that was what I had originally owed my friend. You guys kind of get that?
Yeah.
So it was super powerful. Yeah, I didn't text him in like 7 years. So to do that was something that came from the depth of my mind. And rounding it out, preparing for a 10-day. If you guys use like Headspace, Calm, that kind of stuff, I think that's awesome. And then sitting and observing the breath, but also just growing up in the Sai fold is like awesome. Like I'm like super, 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 super thankful. Because it just like everything kind of just like came together during the silence retreat. And so this is something that worked for me. 3 days before, so I think you were asking, right? Before I had been meditating, and I started off doing 3 days of consecutive meditation. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that was super powerful. Just like the idea of it building upon each other. And so Thursday, Friday, I felt like really good. and then Saturday, Sunday, I felt kind of empty. So then I added an extra day, and once it became 5 days, then it became 7 days. Then I started to see the real value of having a daily practice. So think about the amount of days, the time of day that I do it, and then the length of time. So I'm still working on the time of day. I'm trying to make sure that it's at the same time. But it's always changing. And then the last slide is, so I had a chance to talk to my assistant teacher, and he gave me this really, really powerful quote. He went for 45 days of silence, but he's also been doing this for 30 years. But I think the key understanding there is that he's just a regular person. He has a regular job. He's like a developer at an ed tech company, and he codes every day for all the tech people here. And he sits on some of these silence retreats and whatnot. And so hearing that, I was like, all right, I can see how you're able to sit for 45 days. And this is something that's really powerful. And then I actually laminated this and just put it on my desk. Every day is important. Every hour is important. Every minute is important. Every second is important. Within every second, there are millions, trillions of bits and pieces. Every bit and piece is important. So as you kind of internalize, right, your mind is passing synapses through your body, and that's how you feel these sensations. And you observe them, and you kind of move on, and you let them go. That's why I think every bit and piece is important. That's kind of all I have.
Yeah, first I start with an observation. I'm so inspired by you and so amazed. This is not an easy journey. All of us can really. Yeah. While you're talking to me, I'm already having 10 thoughts, right? So for you to be able to kind of process that, the question I had was, after you go through something like this, you feel the futility of even talking. Does it ever kind of come to you why should I even bother about certain things, talking about certain things, or you find yourself catching yourself?
Yeah, for sure. There's I think gossip is a big one, right? Family stuff, right? Everyone loves to do that. And so now I've definitely been more cognizant of it and trying to, not really talk to those people.
Did you find that, despite the fact that you had spent 10 days not talking, you didn't actually have any desire to, do any of the things that you weren't allowed to do, read or write or what? You wrote for 6 hours, but was that desire immediately there after 10 days, or did it you slowly acclimate yourself to
I slowly acclimated. I still didn't really turn on my phone. I went to Budgeons. I had a really good experience with the clerk. So it was really, really slow. And then I actually started work after that. So it was just a great way to start work.
So 10 days you woke up at 4.
Yeah.
And how was that? Would you recommend doing that on a daily basis on your daily schedule? What time would you sleep?
It is hard to get up at 4. It's really hard. But those 10 days, I just it was painful to get up at 4. But I just made sure that I got up at 4. But now I try to get up pretty early, and you also need to sleep early too, right?
What time do you sleep over there? The retreat?
9:30, and 10 p.m. lights out. So.
First of all, great job. Amazing to just listen to you go through this. I guess I have 2 questions. One is, what do you think, what one of the main things is that you changed or have been doing differently since you came back?
I guess kind of that the plan that I had, right, on how to tackle certain things. So trying to tackle that I think one thing is interesting that I got my boss into meditation. He's like downloads Headspace and like I've done 2 weeks of sleep. And so that has been really cool. Yeah, I think I didn't talk about this in this slide, but like it's kind of a much more deeper topic, but visible and invisible forces of nature. Maybe some of you have got that sheet. Just like, things just like really work out. Kind of how you want to do. Like, and the biggest thing for me is that like when I joined this company, I wanted to work under one person specifically, and I just said I'll do any role. And so I worked under somebody who's like a little bit like rash in decision making, and then but just done a really good job and like just be really silent. And then one day he just come up to me in the morning, and so they formed a new team, the growth team. And then this guy, my previous boss, came up to me and said, "We're going to run an experiment. We're going to put you on the growth team." And then I like told my boss on the first day, I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I actually wanted to work under you when you were in marketing, but then you moved to growth, and now I moved to growth." And so now we have a team of 3, and it's like super fun to go to work. It's like, yeah, just things like just work.
My other thing was like, do you feel like you listen better in terms because of what you've experienced?
Yeah, for sure, right? Because you can just silent, so you can like silent your mind. And it has been good because, when people call you up and like their whole life is in like a disaster, maybe like relationship stuff or like family stuff, and so you're able to like really like stop what you're thinking about and what you're doing and give this person who you're really close to like your full attention and time, right? And that I think is really powerful. And something I didn't go over here is like this idea of like multitasking and one pointed attention. It's really easy to like eat and work, or like eat and do something, or like listen to music, walk, talk to somebody else, do like 5 different things at once. We're just like, it's just bettering the habit pattern of like multitasking. And imagine if you're like with your friends or with your significant other or whatever, and you're just like multitasking. So you're just giving them like 50% of your time because you're giving this other thing like podcasting and like talking to someone, right? And so I guess right now I'm like kind of thinking about what I'm trying to work on is like just focusing on one thing at one time, like thought, like mind, hand, and heart, right? Just one thing at one time.
Do you feel happier?
Yeah. Because like you have a plan to face your fears, right? And you become, after I paid him back and he sent me this long message, like I was like, yeah, I'm like lighter now. I don't have to think about that ever again. So you do feel a lot happier.
Any more questions, guys?
I have one. So something that you just said that caught my attention. You talked about how you focus on one thing at a time now.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are a culture that prides ourselves on multitasking.
Oh yeah.
I want to be able to do 80 things, right? Yeah. If I can do that, I'm better than everybody else, right? That's our attitude. How do you square with that? In terms of our sense of productivity and our sense of moving forward, all those things that we think about. Yeah. And being able to focus 100% on one thing.
Yeah. And we talked about this at CYF, right? And so if you're just like in tune, if you're spiritually in tune or you're in tune with nature, people just like the world will just label that as productivity because you just get things done. But like I was telling my boss this, I was like, no, I don't want to multitask. But multitask, I'm going to start like 5 different things and I'm going to get everything like 50, 80, 90% done, right? I just want to get one thing 100% done. And so like I think every day at 3 I have like an early dinner and like I sit there and I like eat my like food. And so like but that time I try not to talk to anybody. And it's from 3 to 3:15, it's like eating. So that's another big change. Yeah, focus, like driving happiness from just like regular life.
So what would you sort of recommend is like an easy step for everyone here to sort of take home?
Yeah.
Of like maybe a mini version of that. I don't know. What's your
just try like sitting down for 5 minutes. Maybe use these apps, maybe don't. And just like, observe your breath for just 5 minutes. Maybe put it in your calendar, schedule it in your calendar. Try to do it in the morning or whenever. Try to make it consistent. 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday has just been so great. Because to me, like trying to meditate for 7 days is like unreal. But maybe my uncle told me this and it just clicked in my head. I was like, 30 days is a joke. I could do that. For me, I could do that. And then naturally, you just feel the energy to build more. But I do really suggest like building some type of practice before going to this because you want to keep it going.
Awesome.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you so much, Satya. Again, I think just to wrap up,